Hey everybody, we're back at the College in Arts and Humanities podcast, and today we've got in the studio with us Mr. Vinklarek. So thanks for being on the show with us.
Oh, well, it's a lot of fun. Thanks.
So one of the things I kind of was talking to you about, I wanted to start off with asking what kind of drew you to higher ed? You were talking to me about that a little bit.
Well, it's a matter of continuing my addiction to art and culture. Essentially what it boils down to. I happen to enjoy talking about art, reading about it, culture, in this case mass communications. It's related. In recent days, it's kind of blossomed into the study of propaganda as well, because many of our majors in the art department are what you call advertising or graphic. They are making commercials, essentially.
Right.
Advertising.
Yeah.
And talk about propaganda, of course, that links in for sure. And so this idea of propaganda has been around forever and going through its stages, and lately it's taken on highly negative connotations, especially after World War II. But propaganda has been around. It's just a hammer the way I see it.
Right.
You can either use it to build a house or torture somebody, It's what you want to do with it, And in art, there's a whole tradition of propaganda and the ways that images can be filtered and manipulated. And I teach a film class as well, and that's part of the process. We have many of our majors interested in film and advertising, making videos and all that. But it's strongly connected with straightforward painting and sculpture as well, which was my major in coming up in all the way out of high school and into higher education. And I'm still doing sculpture, still teaching sculpture. And it's just a three-dimensional. Well, I look at it as visual philosophy.
Sculptures?
Sculpture, painting, printmaking, is just visual philosophy, and whether it's in whatever your aims or intentions are in terms of trying to make money at it or not trying to make money at it, being commercial or non-commercial. It comes from a creative impulse, and that's what attracts me about this kind of study, and it has branches out into a lot of different areas. I mean, we're talking about psychology and philosophy and Freud and Jung and all that. I think we all need to be very cognizant of those characters and how they explored it early on. But the propagandists knew how to use those forces. At very early stages.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to ancient Egypt. I mean, the pyramids themselves, that's propaganda. So that's where we start studying art in general. Well, actually, we start in the caveman time, 20,000, 30,000 BC. And what's amazing about that is look how modern they look. And that's one of my major points that I make in the classes, is that we think we're all so sophisticated with our magic toys, our computers and rocket ships and all that. But actually, we're not so much different from those people that lived in holes in the ground. Really? So anyhow, hopefully that doesn't meander too much on that question, but it's a big one. It's a big one, what gets me going on that. And I haven't lost interest. I'm kind of getting up there, I guess, in years. But when that happens, then I'll bail. I suppose. But I can't really see that happening. For that matter.
I think a lot of people that get into higher ed can kind of come at that from that point of view, which is that, boy, this was just something that I was a huge fan of, and I couldn't stop learning about it. I couldn't stop telling other people about it. Yeah. And now I want to get other people kind of hooked on it the same way that I am.
Share that,
Share
that energy, so to speak. Yeah.
You were talking about, a little before we started recording, about, how, what that kind of leap looks like, going from middle school and high school into higher ed, and I thought that was really a really great metaphor about going from a kind of
sort of a closed system to open it up.
Yes, sir.
So to
Yeah,
speak. Yeah.
I thought that was a really great metaphor to kind of explain why college is important and why it continues to be important, even though it's come under a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah, it has, hadn't it? It's become a political plum, I guess you could say, with the White House suing Harvard and all that. Here we are trying to defend Harvard, which I don't know that's worth doing, but with the question in hand about academic freedom, on the line, one needs to be supportive of that, what they call academic freedom, or exploring academic exploration, opening things up as opposed to shutting down to a narrow idea. I say basically it's a kind of a romantic idea, essentially. In literature they call it romanticism or classicism.
Right.
Classicism is narrow and confining and restrictive, whereas romanticism is open and receptive and accepting, or recognizing a bunch of unrecognized ideas. It's a romantic idea, and I think in many ways we are in that romantic age. But when you study these two opposing forces, they seem opposite, but they do overlap and intertwine, and it's a very complicated process. And you can go to the library and see the stacks and stacks of books covering all the different examples and different approaches and interpretations of that. But it's been around like propaganda from year one, essentially. I mean, the Greek, you can study it in the Greeks and the Romans and the ancient Egyptians and all that, these same ideas. And art history, all art majors are required to take a full dose of art history and know the masters.
A full dose.
Full dose, yeah. And, I don't mean, it's an introductory dose is what we end up with in undergraduate.
Right.
But hopefully that's enough to kind of keep you going and really jump in. You never stop. As far as that goes.
As we were talking about, it's kind of, how do you get a full dose of something that has been more or less continually going for...
Yeah, how could you call it a full dose? It's not a full dose.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, what does a full dose
it's
look like?
What we call a freshman core, which is you take drawing and design and art history, which is, you can't do anything unless you do that. And that really comes out of what they call the Bauhaus education, which is the first school of academic study that began in the first part of the 20th century out of Germany. Prior to that, art education was more like an apprenticeship. Right. And you hung around the master, like in the Middle Ages and Renaissance. You apprentice in a master studio first as a 12-year-old, sweeping the floor, and then working your way up, so to speak.
It kind of reminds me of what kind of how people get their foot in the door at Hollywood, for instance.
We haven't abandoned that. That technique is still around.
You kind of are doing a lot of paperwork for more important people while they take the credit.
Oh yeah, they just sign it.
Right. And then work your way up when when
you've demonstrated your competency,
and then all of a sudden you're in those meetings and you are making
and you
those
become
decisions.
the head of the studio.
Yeah,
and all that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But the idea of scholasticism and education and classes and philosophizing and teaching and all that—that's a big part of the mix. You graduate with the letters after your name and all that, so that you can have a career. In art, though, the letters are not quite as important as, say, maybe in other areas. Those kind of credentials. What the major credential for advancing an art career is the portfolio. And you can get that no matter where you're at these days, especially. But it's the portfolio, the quality of the work, and whether it measures up, as it were. That's the true yardstick.
We were talking about that a little bit before we started recording, and it is funny that you mention Harvard, because there's a lot of emphasis placed on getting into the school. You know, I know a lot of people that, and even if we're not talking about Ivy League schools, a lot of people have become very, very interested in specific colleges that might have, you know,
the reputation,
enrollments of 40,000 people, 50,000,
flagship universities,
universities, and you're saying
that doesn't really matter that much.
No,
not for education wise,
right?
Because you're getting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, at ASU, you get a stronger foundation,
right?
Because at the big flagship schools, you don't get taught by those fully tenured, high-end professors. You get taught by graduate students. Many years, and maybe at the end you might get inside the strong, highfalutin situation. But here at ASU, you're taught by fully tenured, advanced people day one. Day one, you get that. Whereas you're on a delay system, you have to fight it out, so to speak, to finally get there at the big schools, so to speak. So there's a tremendous advantage at working in a smaller situation, for sure. Yeah,
I've kind of felt that way about Angeles State, because we always tout our ratio between faculty and student, and I've always kind of, if look at some of the freshman courses at other universities, and it might work for some people, but it wasn't really 100 to 1 student to faculty ratio was not that didn't sound too good to me.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lecturer, and you got maybe 300 people in the classroom, but then that lecturer has written all these books on the subject and what have you, but then they've got about a battery of half a dozen graduate students that really handle your issues, so to speak, and your real progress. That's in terms of how you do.
I mean, I can't think of the papers that would require grading in a class like that.
Yeah. That one professor doesn't do that.
Right.
They'll stand up and pontificate, but then it's those graduate students that really handle the load. Yeah,
it'd be cruel and unusual punishment, I think, to make one person go through so many college papers.
Yeah.
So we also brought you on just to ask what's going on with you recently. Have you got any programs you're interested in sharing with us, and where can people check them out if they're interested?
Well, I mean, I'm a constant student of this idea of propaganda, for sure, and how that has evolved over the centuries and art history and all that. But I'm staying strong in the studio and getting my work out in the world and entering juried competitions. If you look at my resume, that's what really and I've seen it again and again at people faculty members teaching at flagship universities. How do you determine a person's competency? Well, it goes down to 3 words: count the shows. Count the shows. What shows you've been in? How many you've been in? And to get in a show is very highly competitive. I mean, there are shows and local things that are not hard to get into.
Right.
They're begging you to show your work. Okay, fine. But then there's shows where they have 1,000 entrants or 4,000 entrants, and they only take maybe 5% of the work.
Cream of the crop, right?
Yeah, 5% of the work can only be shown, and it's a battery of judges, and these are international, highly competitive shows. So just to get in the show is a big honor, and so those national, international shows are the big things that are worth mentioning. The rest of it, not so much. And I, at any given moment, I'm in about 3 of those shows at any given moment. Right now, I'm in shows in California and Idaho and the Chicago area and Arkansas, and usually those shows are associated with some university of some type. We have a major show here in town at the San Angelo Museum of Fine Art. It's a ceramic show that we've had, and it's one of the big dog with thousands of entrants that we bring in a high-powered judge to judge those shows. And and coming up here, we'll have a symposium and celebration and all that, and we bring in invited artists, so it's a big deal. And it's a national, international type show with a lot of competition, and it's in ceramics, though. And it started as a small show here on the campus, but mutated into directorship from our new museum director that we brought in when San Angelo Museum of Fine Art was established, with a museum director named Howard Taylor, who has retired and gone down the road. And we have some new people in there and transitioning, but we're still keeping the show. And there's a couple of shows. There was a sculpture show associated with it, but it's still in transition. And so we have things like that here in our own midst. Of course, we have all the local and regional things, that are opportunities for students and stuff. But I really don't count those in terms of what I do. I try to go for the national, international venues across the country. In other words, if I can't make a sculpture that's durable enough to put in a cardboard box and ship across the country, I'm not interested. There's a lot of sculptors do these big monumental things, and okay, fine, and I'd touch on that a little bit. That's what the sculpture show here at the museum was about, was big outdoor stuff. It's okay, if you're doing welding and stuff, but I really don't do the welding. Our facility just won't handle it, and so I've had to improvise other kinds of materials. I do things like cast paper and smaller metal casting with the foundry that we've established since the last building remodel that we've had at the Education Fine Arts building. So we don't have welding, but we do have some metal work. We do some metal casting there in our little foundry that we have. So we're always, we do touch on those areas in an important way so that students can get that exposure and have some kind of foundational platform to build on in their education. But my orientation is not so much to show locally, but when asked or shown a need, I will chip in. Oh, sure, I will. I do participate, and I'm not in an ivory tower, and I do participate I have some pieces on display at the Kendall Gallery here in town. It's a local regional thing. So it's not that I want to be a snob. It's just that I recognize there are certain levels. There are shows, and then there are shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's in any kind of professional situation like that.
Yeah, I guess that brings me to the question, there are shows and then there are shows.
Yeah.
With somebody just starting out, what's the kind of advice or the encouragement that gets somebody to go from,
First really depends on get a lot of work done. Anchor yourself to the studio. Learn as much as you can about the materials and techniques, and make as much work as you can. Without that, you're dead in the water. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And then start branching out. I think trying to show your work or make money off your work too soon is a mistake. So get the work done. Have a solid theoretical background knowledge about the field itself, who are the leaders of the field, and find out where you stand in terms of how you connect with these leaders or not connect. That's just as important.
Just as important.
To not connect.
I would think so. Yes.
And and find out where you stand, and that doesn't happen overnight, And so it's part of that studio work is the readings, and look at any of the great artists; they all were well read. Van Gogh knew 4 languages and he was well read and stuff. I mean, you don't. It's not. Part of it is the head game too. That's why we're commanded to take art history 2 in our freshman core, art history 1 and 2, and then we have another battery of art history down the road with modern and some other specialization. So it's really 2 year half your career is you're taking art history the whole time in a art program, and that's not just ASU. That's the typical BFA program.
Becoming well-read.
Becoming well-read and having the head part of it, the theoretical stand and where how that originated, where it comes from, and what the reason is for that. And you learn about yourself that way. I think that's really what the art game is about, is fulfilling an inner need, that need inside, rather than so much of a command performance for clients, as it were.
Right.
Although many of our majors have that orientation, I understand that, because they're advertising, they're commercial, they're graphics and all that.
Right.
A lot of them, we have a presentation and they'll stand up in front of the crowd and say, I've chose commercial art because I like to eat, That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can say it fast like that, that's good, But that's a big part of the motivation, is and of course, the parents that are encouraging their children push that commercial end because they don't want to see their child suffer. Protect their baby. But you really that only goes so far. Real learning, you're gonna have some pain there. No pain, no gain, like any exercise. It's just another muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but all you can do is be frank, but nurture. Tell them the truth, but nurture. Now, the thing about telling the truth is, you tell the truth, but you don't hammer them with it. You don't cut their throat with it, but you build up with it. That's being creative. Is a whole idea of building up. I teach a lot of what is creativity. What is it? It's not necessarily standing in front of a painting. It's not necessarily hammering on a stone. It is. You can be a creative engineer. You can be a creative dishwasher. You can be. You can take any activity and look at an alternative way of building it up, making it better. What are the traits of a creative person? And I try to cultivate that. And it's about helping each other.
That's a great way to look at it.
That's what. Yeah. It's not just destruction, but it is. You take any anti-establishment art, and there are a lot of them, but it's not just destruction. It is a building up too, and offering something, not just void, but it is looking at an alternative, having another possibility, and coming up with other ideas. That's the creative part, is idea getting. And that's why people are afraid of it too, because a creative person is always on the lookout for source material, always.
Sure.
And that's why people are afraid of them. So they want to end up being in a work of art, so to speak.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the
creative part, I think, is a preparatory for the projects themselves. But you got to have that. Art history is a little bit, how should I say, misleading. Because you see these finished things in the books, and they look so fresh, so free, so spontaneous, so quickly done. No, they're not. Right. You read about the lives of the artists, you find that there's immense amount of sacrifice, pain, and anxiety, and failure, and all that, behind each of these pieces. But they don't look like it.
Right.
I
think that can ease a lot of the concerns that people might have. I think that.
Yeah, what's wrong with me? No, nothing's wrong with it. Give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to how we do a lot of things. kind of in the modern day. We appreciate the appearance of spontaneous.
The gold cigar. We want that now.
Right.
Want that
right.
now. Yeah.
But kind of understanding that there was a lot of sacrifice to get to that point is important to understand that's necessary.
Well, with a successful person, it's not the one who just has success. No, they have more failure than everybody. They're the ones that get back up and get going again.
Right.
That's the difference. They don't get discouraged, but they keep going, stubbornly, crazily, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. So as we come to the end here, was there anything else that we missed that you wanted to add?
Well, I didn't mention the radio program.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Ram radio, and I really appreciate the new techniques that we have with their technology. It used to be sort of hard to get in there with an app, but it's so easy to get on just Google or Firefox, Ram Radio, Angelo State, and pow, there it is. It's really easy to get to it,
Right.
And I have audience listeners from across the country, former students, what have you, people from around. I post little cards and promotional items when I go to the conferences across the country on the little bulletin boards, etc., everywhere. So I'm constantly advertising it. And it's about experimental music along with general experimental culture as well, with readings from the world of art and hard-hitting experimental music as well. I mean, it's not your it's not broadcasting, it's narrowcasting.
Yeah.
To a narrow elite, so to speak. So in a way, that's kind of classical because it is doesn't try to please the big crowds, so to speak. It is more about really challenging listening, which is not the kind of thing that's going to be forced on you by the commodity-driven culture industry, as Adorno would say, but it is more along the line of a real serious commitment to culture that I try to promote on the program. It's called Pataphysics, which is comes out of theatrical literature invented by the great playwright and author Alfred Jarry, which is the tail end of French symbolist literature, which is the foundation of modern art. You go to English art schools, many of the musicians in English pop music know about pataphysics, and it is definitely an art term, but it's a big history behind it, and strongly connected with visual art as well. So that's my program anyway. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Mr. Vinklarek, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah.
Glad that you're here. We're getting a lot of people from the art department really interested in this in this podcast that we're doing.
Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out for you.
Yeah. No. We're just so glad that you guys are supportive of this idea that we've got going on.
Okay.
And look for it. When we get it up. But thanks for joining us.
Yeah, keep me posted.
All right, we'll do.
Thank you a lot.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of the College of Arts and Humanities podcast, and we'll see everybody on the next one.
Bye-bye.